Hello, friends and enemies, heroes and villains. Welcome back. We are on part 2 of our special community event, the Game Masters of Epic Realms, joined by Matt, aka Zine, who runs the Stolen Souls campaign, currently has run the Sandpoint campaign, is kind of the overall GM of what we call the Joint Galarian universe. Next is our GM Andrew, aka Monkey Swag, who has run our Curse of the Crimson Throne, one of the early campaigns that has been run right here on stream, and is also part of an amazing podcast, which we'll talk about here later on down the road. You can check it out at tabletoppod.com. And right below Matt is the Blind GM, also known as Adam, who you can find right here on Twitch, but you can also find him on TikTok. But you can find him here on Twitch at the Blind GM on Twitch. You're also on YouTube and like I said, TikTok and Twitter and all that kind of stuff as well.
So kind of all over the place under the Blind GM. That's what I'm going for, especially since there's talk of the TikTok ban. So
yeah, right. Kind of gotta need to do that. Hello, welcome in Scarblade. Thank you everybody who's been chatting and hanging out and asking questions, whether it be specific game stuff about the specific games we've run on stream here, or in general advice questions or how-tos or whatever. I mean, we've decided amongst the four of us, we have almost 80 years of game mastering experience amongst us. So quite the slew of gaming experience. And here's the thing I want to ask you guys, and this has nothing to do with specifically streaming or not streaming or any of the games we've done on here, but I think we can all agree that every GM has their own game master style. I've brought it up on stream with other people before, but never has it been more prevalent than I've noticed amongst our group of friends, because each of us has a very distinct style and very distinct way we run games. Do you guys have any insight with that? I'll start with Adam, because I know you and I have talked about it ad nauseum.
Oh my God, we've talked about it so much. Well, let's look at it right here. Okay, so Nick and I don't run modules, or we prefer not to run modules. We'd rather run off the cuff, or we'd rather run with a planned game that we've come up with on our own. Whereas I know Matt much prefers to run modules. Andrew, would you say that qualifies for you as well?
I probably run more modules than not, but overall my time it has been more not modules. My home game, my first one that's been going on forever is not a module. It is all homebrew. And Curse of the Crimson Throne, obviously, Serpent Skull, Rune Lords, all modules.
Fair enough. So, and like whether you're running from a module or whether you're running off the cuff or whether you're running from a planned game. So like sometimes I will sit down and I'll plan, and it's 2 hours of planning for every 1 hour of game. Or sometimes I'll just show up to the game and be like, we're just going to do a thing.
Yeah, sandbox.
And we're going to see where it goes. Yeah, sandbox game. And that's kind of where my strength lies, is I can plan a game and it will go fine, I'm sure. But my strength lies in thinking on my feet when it comes to an RPG and running a game. So if somebody throws a curveball to me, like casting Feeble Mind on my bad guy,
sorry, not sorry.
No, you're not, and nor should you be. When somebody casts Feeble Mind on my bad guy, my thought then is like, all right, this is where we are. Where do we go from there? And just go from there. And that's I feel like that's my strength. Whereas Matt has run modules, and I can argue that Matt runs one of the best modules of anybody that I know.
I always say Matt's the guy that if you give him a module, you won't know he's running a module.
Exactly.
He'll file it seamlessly into the overall campaign, and you will never have a fucking clue.
My favorite story about that actually is from you, Nick. He ran you through the Dragon Age Origins game, and you never knew it was Dragon Age Origins.
We didn't even know it was a thing. We didn't even know it was a thing. I'm telling other people about it. They're like, that sounds familiar. I'm like, well, yeah, whatever. And then no clue. And then later he's like, it's from a game. I'm like, no, there's no way you would have gotten that. And then I got the game, and I ran through, and I made all the same decisions, unique to me, that I made in the role-playing session, and the results were identical. almost like Matt was like, "This is the decision I'm going to make for Nick," and he played the game in my stead as we played. Like he had one for me, he had one for Brian, he had one for he like. What the fuck? I need a drink.
And with Andrew, again, I've never, other than like a one shot or two, I've never really played with Andrew as my GM. So I'm speculating here, but Andrew is one of, just as a person, as a human being, one of the most clever and funny individuals I know in real life. And I can only imagine what that looks like applied to an RPG. Just the capacity to roll with a punch and to take a module or to take a homebrew and look at the characters as a whole, not just as an individual moment, like little slices of life, but like as a whole, and be like, this is the story that we're going to tell. And I'm going to let it play out. Like, I'm going to let it happen with the characters as they develop and change and grow and all of that. And just be able to kind of look at that whole experience and just roll with it and make it fun and entertaining and clever and witty, and like, even if he doesn't have a plan, make you think that he has a plan. And I feel like that applies very well. So
I
like
think
that
I want to add on, being that I was in the Crimson Throne, I've been in Mutants and Masterminds campaigns, I've been in a handful of games that he's run. He is the most cinematic GM that I've ever played under. I feel like I'm in a movie every time. And that doesn't happen. That's not easy to do. I didn't even think it was possible, but I legitimately feel, whether it's home behind a table, I feel like it's a cinematic. I'm in a movie. Whether it's Curse of the Crimson Throne, Mutants and Masterminds, Call of Cthulhu, I feel like I'm watching a show or a movie. And that's something that none of us, I really feel any of us really do. And I didn't even know that was a style, but it is. It is.
100% is. I feel like I run like a book. I run like a novel. And that I feel is my strength, is running like this kind of narrative discourse that runs itself towards being this sort of deep, intense, thought-provoking narrative that ends with a climactic ending. Our friend Brian has a completely other voice, and you've seen Brian on other streams. He's in Old School 3, he's in Soul and Souls, he was in Sandpoint.
Crimson Throne, yeah, he's a mainstay.
Using Crimson Throne, like
never GM'd
Brian,
on stream. I need to remedy that.
You do need to remedy that, because Brian is, again, of the people here that I run with.
Oh.
Oh.
It wasn't me.
There's some. I smell. What's that? Is that shade that I smell, or is that
a little
All right,
shade,
I'm
little
smelling
snark.
some shade.
I don't see him in the chat list, so it's okay to say it.
I'm gonna send.
I think it would be okay to say it.
We're gonna clip that.
Yeah, clip that.
Don't clip that. Don't clip that.
Each of our group, each of our friends, has such a strong, powerful, different voice. And it's always fun to play. And again, having not played under Andrew, which again we do need to remedy, but it's always fun to play under everybody's different, distinctive voice. And as a writer in particular, like, I appreciate a strong voice, and we all have that. And I think that's amazing. I think we are genuinely, and I'm gonna wax poetic a little bit here. And that's definitely not because I'm a little bit drunk. We are all.
Thank you, Bentley, by the way.
We are all so good at what we do, and I think it's so rare to have a group of this caliber of GM to be in one place at one time playing together, that I genuinely feel that we are incredibly lucky that we have this experience and we have these voices and these people and these opinions to rely upon if we need it. And that's my take on all of this.
Matt?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like the idea of like GM style For me, yeah, like I love running like pre-written adventures, but twisting them. And like I've done it as like a dare of using a level 1 adventure and running level 10 players through it. Like I know 3.5, I know Pathfinder enough that I can scale up with either level or templates, pre-done NPCs and baddies to make them a challenge and fit it into the story. And yeah, I think that's my big kind of win that I can do as a GM. But then being in your games, Bear, like I feel like I'm living through a body horror, just like I'm not winning. And like I'm specifically thinking White Wolf.
Mhm.
It's not
World,
winning the
World of
game.
Darkness.
I'm surviving. And usually it's not without like friends, allies, limbs, sanity lost. Like it really does feel, and that's one reason why in the game that I'm playing, I literally made someone that came back from the dead because I figured it was going to be a body horror mess of a show, and I might as well play something that leans into the body horror aspect with having these different kind of like undead symbiotes is the best way we've described how the Geist powers work, is really lean into that factor. Um, and with Andrew just popping into your game, um, like the cinematics there, and I feel especially for your high level game because people are, what's the highest level person? 23,
22nd level.
22nd level with how many mythic tiers?
I think
6.
there's 6 or 7.
Um, I feel like every game that I have sat in and helped play poor Emmanuel the Angel, I have had to bring my A game because if not, I or one of the other players would be dead. Like that whole idea of the fear guy and going, he's going to kill us all. What can I do? Oh, level 1, remove fear. It's the cheesiest thing, but I need to use it because without remove fear, we will die. like I feel like it's like needed. Because you like I feel like you grew up. I don't want to say grew up because it sounds weird. Um, but your kind of development into gaming, because I don't know, did you game before coming up here to Minnesota?
No, Rachel, my wife Rachel, she demanded I play D&D. She would not take no for an answer. She said it's a
That
deal breaker.
all of that tracks. Like
Yeah.
100% that tracks.
Yeah.
That is
Forced.
said with the most
Forced, she
amount of
says in chat. Forced.
Forced.
that is that is said with the
Kidnapped.
most amount of love I could possibly muster. All of that tracks.
So seeing, you kind of, and Nick and I have talked about it, is just your kind of growth as like coming in as a player, not knowing what's going on, grasping the rules, like getting good, and then like running your games. And like the big thing, like you've asked for help, I think, before anyone else did, of being like, hey, I'm running this game, I have this problem, I don't want to throw my head against you beat my head against the wall. Be like, hey, how would you guys deal with this problem? Oh, what would be a best way to handle this? And for a lot of us, it's like, oh, wait a minute, we got a great fucking resource of us as a group. Let's lean on it. Let's have a chat that we can bounce ideas off
Yeah.
each other. Let's like in
Andrew
this,
is 100% the reason why we have this
It
chat.
is. It is all Andrew's. The
Yeah.
reason we have the Covenant of GMs chat.
so having like knowing that we can lean on each other, that's like, as weird as this sounds, one reason why I don't have a game where all of the GMs are playing together. I want to always have one person that can run an idea off of.
That's fair.
Because if I ran a game with all of the GMs, if I came up against them, I'd be like, ah, shit. Like I don't have a second head or another brain to pick ideas from.
That's not
And
true. You do have a game where all the GMs are playing together. Well, not all the GMs are playing, but most of the GMs are playing together. You're just not running that game.
true. Um, So then having
You always could ask people, do what I do, and ask people for help, and then make them fight their creations.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
You just got to be
Well-
sneaky about it, though.
And
Don't
I-
give names, don't
Yeah,
just be like, I want someone based upon this, and then not realize that, I would ever be invited into the game and face my own terrors.
Well, and honestly, the four of us have been GMing and playing long enough that we cannot metagame. Like, we're all severely against the metagame prospect in general, and so like even if you did come into a game and like Matt or Bear or Nick or whatever help me create this thing, and we're in that game, we'll be like, yeah, okay, and then we'll fucking play dumb.
We've done it.
We've
Curse
done
of the
it.
Crimson
However-
Throne. I knew half of the Curse of the Crimson Throne story, and I even told the other players that I knew a lot of it. I don't think anybody realized how much I knew, because the old school 3 campaign was originally going to be set in Corvosa, so I had to research everything. So I read that book cover to cover, and I didn't play that I knew that book cover to cover. I mean, some of the stuff I forgot eventually, and some of this there was one section I didn't read because it didn't take place in Corvosa. But a lot of that I knew, and I don't think anybody really realized how much I knew, and I played that. I think I played that really well, honestly. Obviously, Andrew made up a bunch of stuff that wasn't in the book, so but still.
Mhm.
Regular bud. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, and then like for games that I'm in with Nick, and like I always have a hard time when I'm running a game that Nick's in, because I've been GMing for Nick since we were 16, 17.
Yeah.
And we are more than double that now. So like sometimes it's like,
Matt was my second GM. He was my first D&D GM.
yeah.
Well,
And
with
so-
the exception of Andrew, we're all in our 40s at this point. So
Yeah, I'm just turned 50, so
Yeah.
That Just for Men's doing great, by the way.
It
yeah,
is, it
just
is.
a touch of gray right here.
yeah, you look great for your age.
Don't look a day older than 65.
So, I mean, yeah, like I have a hard time, like when I'm running something that I want to like have a surprise for Nick. Big thing like our joint Galarian, bad stuff was happening to us. And unfortunately, Nick's character had the item that was causing a bunch of the bad stuff to happen. He had this cursed chair that was dominating him and making him do bad stuff. And he also had a set of cursed armor that was turning him into a murderer every time he went to sleep at night. So, well, he wasn't, but his armor was going out, killing people, and going back to his room. So there was like all of this bad. And Nick just gives me a call one day and he goes, "Are the Decemvirate the bad guys? They're the only ones that are able to connect
He's
everything that
person
we're
can
doing."
figure your plots
Well, and
out.
part of it was it didn't matter what we did. All of the stuff that we had planned, like we had set, like all of these things. There's no way anyone's going to get through this list. It was like this mile-long list of security measures, and they overcame it like it was like they farted in the wind. It's like, oh, that was easy. We just overcame all that. It's like there's no way. There is no way that they would have known. I had secretly had like a buff put on me so I couldn't be mind controlled, and they just were like, yeah, that doesn't matter. That doesn't exist.
But you're saying Nick is your plot foil.
And sometimes, and so now when I'm like making something that will specifically target Nick, I have to like step back and be like, what would I do, or how can I have this be something that was brought up so long ago that has meaning but hasn't been brought up since? Like becoming the Griffin Lord for Maractus was something that was a goal and an idea 10 levels ago. That was something that he figured could never happen, and this entity had its peace and was happy with its death, and that was kind of it. And I'm like, I want to bring this back, and I want it to be important and impactful. And there were certain requirements that Maractus had to do. He had to clean the church, he had to do ceremonies, things that his character had learned about at this point 5 years ago. And still remembered it because they were important enough to the character, and so he did them, and I'm like, cool. Like, it opens up this big change and this big goal advancement that, and you had said like you didn't expect that, so that was kind of
Yeah.
cool. So for me, I'm like, yes, I got one that he didn't see coming. It wasn't like the December were the bad guys and he figured that one out like 6 months before it's going to be revealed.
I think another
there-
issue too with knowing someone long enough is, and I struggle with this. I oftentimes with Matt more than anyone else, when something happens, sometimes I take it personally because I've known him for so long, and I have to step back and be like, is he doing this intentionally? Does he realize he's doing this? And sometimes I get like, there have been times the thing with the chair, I took that personally. I was like, he's intentionally, I took it super personally. I told Adam on the side, like how personal that was to me. Like, there's no effing way. This is so stupid. I was angry. And then eventually it was like, wait a second. Let's not take this. Let's look at this another step. How is it? What is the one reason? If I were to take over right now, how could I make this make sense? The only way it would make sense is if it was this. Because that would tie to this and this and this and this and this, and damn it, Matt, this was intentional. You did do this. This was the plan all
intentional,
along.
but it wasn't meant to fuck with you.
Yeah, it wasn't
Step
personal.
off for
It was
one
the
second.
story.
Yep.
I just had to step back and go, well, what would be, if I were to do this, if I were GMing this, what would be the logical reason? And it wasn't personal at all, even though I took it personally.
I think
because I felt targeted. But that wasn't the case. It was part of the overall storyline.
I feel like, well, and I don't remember if I said this to you, Nick, or not, but I feel like my response when we were having this conversation was, do you trust Matt as a GM or don't you? And your answer was, well, yeah. And I'm like, then there's a purpose behind this.
Right.
There's a reason behind this.
Drink refill.
And
Oh,
I'm gonna
crap, gotta
keep-
finish.
I'm going to keep drinking water.
Yeah, you had that extra drink ahead of time. You're one ahead of
I
us,
did.
so you're on
Oh,
par.
I was a little toastier than I meant to be, but I'm good now. No, I feel like overall, I feel like we have some great conversations just off separate of each other, and sometimes we do keep each other in check a little bit. Nick will come to me like, this feels very personal. I'm like, yeah, but also, do you trust Matt?
Right.
And his answer is invariably, yeah, I do. Like, we've known each other forever. I trust Matt. I'm like, then trust. Let that be the thing.
Right. And
Trust-
again,
trust
we've
Matt.
known each other for so long. It's hard for him to come up with something for me.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why, like, right now, I'm like, I'm cool just hanging back and playing my character and letting everybody else experience the joy. Because let's look overall, all of us. We were talking earlier, and I'm jumping the gun here a little bit, but if you look at your history, all of our collective histories, and we go, we talked about what makes a character memorable. Well, what makes a campaign memorable, and who is the GM for it and why? If I have this many campaigns that have been super memorable to me, this many have been run by Matt. Those aren't
That's
exact
fair.
numbers, but just so you know, like, let's be honest. So
Yeah. Well, and I get my rocks off by running new players and running new people and all that stuff. So like that's always fun to me, is when I can introduce a new player to a game, or just people that I don't normally run. Like, I love you guys. Don't get me wrong, and I will run you guys
Into
through
the
hell
ground.
and back,
Sorry.
literally, and into the ground. Well,
Welcome
that
in,
happened
Dave.
to me.
Until
So,
I'm
hi,
going
babe.
crazy.
I'm going crazy.
I'm going crazy.
You're a red dragon, Andrew, and Rachel, you're a sword, and Nick, you're a unicorn.
I'm a unicorn after you've been a constellation.
Can we talk about My Little Pony just for a minute?
No,
Just
I didn't know you
Andrew's
had a little pony.
absolute hatred.
actually, on that note of new players, I also get a big joy out of running new players through first time thing. I think I have 2 campaigns that I've started, and in each of those campaigns, nobody except for Rachel has played D&D, Pathfinder, a tabletop role-playing game before.
Wow.
Nice.
And now one of
Love
those
that.
campaigns a player has gone on to GM his own games.
Oh, that's so
And he
wonderful.
has 2 campaigns he's done now. And so that's kind of a gift in and of itself, is when you run a game and then somebody else makes their own thing.
Matt, how does that
My-
feel hearing a third generation?
Right?
Uh-huh.
Because you were running
Well,
the
my-
epic D&D 3.5 campaign when Andrew came in.
Was
Mhm.
my
And now
first
Andrew was
one.
running for someone, and now that person's running.
That makes me feel old. That's what that does.
Well,
That
you
sure
are
does.
old.
Oh, here's what's going to make you feel old. My kid, right? I would literally. So when I came in today and texted you all, hey, I'm here, I'm ready to go. I literally just come from my kid's D&D club at his school, and he's running one of the tables at this D&D club, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm running a game and whatever. I'm running some kids and they're having fun and what have you, but I'm listening to him GM. And here's the thing though, here's the thing. I can hear me in how he runs, but I can hear me and Matt and how he runs. And I can hear me and Brian and how he runs. And I can hear me and Nick and how he runs. Like all of these influences that I had when I was a baby GM of Matt and Nick and Brian and like all of these, I can hear it through him as he's running these kids through a campaign. Some of these kids have never played before. And he's running this campaign, and like, he's 13, so it's not like there's not a lot of nuance and subtlety to it, but it's still good, right? It's still a good story. And I'm listening to this and I'm like, this is, we're most of us in our 40s. This is our legacy at this point. Like this is what we're really going to leave behind when we're all dead and gone, weirdly enough.
I'm immortal.
Like
I'm not
it,
going to die, so I don't know about the rest of you.
you know what? There's a rumor going around on my TikTok that I'm an eldritch
Turn it
being.
up.
I'm gonna lean into it, but
Turn it up, yeah. That's gonna be immortal.
what?
Just going to drink on
But-
that. I'm not going to say anything.
that's our legacy, is that me and you guys and Andrew and Brian and all these people and I'm using it in the context of the four of us and then the people that we know, but also how many people have we touched with the way that what we've been doing? How many lives? Because I know Matt has run some PFS at Pathfinder Society. I know Andrew has run some PFS. I've run some PFS. Like, how many people have we actually influenced by doing what we do for as long as we've done it? And I can only imagine that these people are going on to teach other people the love of storytelling and the love of RPGs. And even if it's not D&D, even if it's not Pathfinder, even if it's not whatever, as long as they're carrying forward this message that storytelling is universal and that it's a way for people to connect on a deep and visceral level, I think we've done our job. If that makes sense.
I feel like that speech should have gone right at the end of the show.
Yeah.
You're gonna have
That
to
was a
just-
high.
You're
And now I'm
gonna
gonna
you're
bring
gonna
it
have to now.
down.
You're gonna have to outdo that at some point.
I'm gonna drop it down. And this kind of goes back to what I said when Adam, you had stepped away, and the whole idea of all of this bad stuff that was being piled on Riley. As a GM, some mistakes that players or characters make that totally change the direction of a game and how it goes. So all of that bad stuff happening with Riley with the cursed chair, that whole adventure was set up for Thaon to sit in the chair and destroy it. Because it's a cursed chair that dominates people to do bad. And it specifically says if a good person that gives away their worldly possessions sits in the chair, it crumbles. And we had a paladin still playing that has like the sword he has is like a +1. We're like level 16. He
Welcome
used
on in.
his
Thank you for the
smite
follow.
to get through DR. He doesn't have like very little magic because he's all about like, I can use my money and I can help out this orphanage. I can use my time and work at the hospital. Like his character gives everything away. And the mistake is the player is ADHD. And right as he was about to sit on the throne, he's like, oh, I want to look out the window, and walked away from where the throne was. And Riley goes, well, I'm going to sit on the throne then if you won't, and sits on it and failed his will save and became dominated. And that changed the whole arc of the campaign. Because the rest of the arc, the whole arc was supposed to be the players hunting down these items to destroy them once they did research of why this chair crumbled and they could sense this spirit leave. But none of that happened because someone wanted to look out a window. And Adam, you recently had this with Mordok when a month after he spent most of his character's life savings to buy this super nasty magical weapon to find out it's fake. And why was it fake? Because I don't know if you were having like a little bit of a bad day in real life, but you were a total monster to these poor market stall people. And they led you to the group of corrupt con men that literally in their description says they make fake magic items to sell to people from off plane that are shitty to the people in the stalls. And you were just like, do you not know who I am? I am Mordok Farbringer, Lord of Thrushmore. How dare you not treat me with the respect that I am due? And they're like, dude, we're a bug race on the shadow plane. You mean nothing to us. So like,
It's actually
oh, go
that's
ahead.
happened twice for Mordok now.
It's happened more than twice for Mordok, let's be honest.
Well, it's happened twice inadvertently.
Yeah.
Like there have definitely been times where I've made choices for the character because it made sense for the character, and I knew as a player that it was not the best choice. But twice that I've had like a bad day, like like you and I've had this conversation, Matt. Like you told me about that, and I went back and I reflected on that. I'm like, no, I'd been having a real shit day. And so I was absolutely being an ass. I was taking it out in the game, and I shouldn't have been, but I was. And that really reflected in the game. And then the second one is when he made the choice to take over the ownership or the guardianship of this draconic valley, and then just never went back. And that wasn't me having a bad day. That was me genuinely just forgetting that I needed to do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
It was not Mordok. That was me.
Oh, that'll always get you.
Yeah.
And the repercussions of that definitely came out in game. And so I'm like, going forward, I'm trying to be very conscious and cognizant of both my choices as a character, but also the way I play my character as a player. Because I recognize that my forgetfulness, my ADHD, all of this stuff does have an impact on that way I play my character. And the character has definitely changed from the person he was when I first started playing him. And I want that to still be reflected in that. So part of the reason why, like, you and I have had a number of conversations going forward about like what that's going to look like, him dealing with the aftermath of dealing with the, him being shitty in the shadow plane and all of that stuff. And so like going forward, I'm trying to make a very conscious decision. I need me personally, I need to dedicate myself to committing to the bit. Going back to what we were talking about before, to committing to the bit.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that.
So what about kind of the rest of you of the idea of how do you handle the weirdness that can happen in a game from bad rolls or a decision that you didn't have planned for, and how do you kind of cope with it when, like in my case, literally changed a whole arc to keep your game going and kind of like repercussions, or is some of it people that can fly from the seat of their pants and don't have a plan, it doesn't matter as much?
think for me, it does depend on if I am flying, because I used to be a total sandbox GM. Like I was always a fly by the seat of pants sandbox GM. I'd like to say I was good at it. I'm not so much anymore because I like to plan. I always have this overarching. I have all the highlighted points from beginning all the way to 20th level. Whether I ever get there or not depends on if I've overplanned. I get bogged down in my own brain sometimes.
Mhm.
I take on more than I can chew, and maybe I should get back to sandbox GMing a bit more. But when I was sandbox GMing, it wasn't an issue at all because that was the point. Like I kind of knew, like, does it affect the overall story of the game? Yes. Okay. How does it change it, and where can I go from there? And like, how much does it change, and how do I adjust for that? Whereas if I have a plan, you guys have seen it. Some of you, I know Matt and Adam for sure. There was a Ravenloft game where even if one character couldn't be there, I couldn't even run it. That's how complex the game was set up in my mind, in my head canon. I couldn't run it. This was years ago. So yeah, if it's in a game where I have the stuff planned and it's something that drastic, where it's a major game changer, I really do have to reevaluate how that's going to affect the game and how it's going to change the thing, or how can I fix it without taking that away from the characters. Because if the characters do something, you can't take it away from them.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they did something, if you if you trivialize something cool that they've accomplished or something that they've worked really hard with, that can come back poorly. And so I don't ever want to trivialize something that they've worked hard on, or something that they've done, or something that they've accomplished, just so I can tell my story. I will change the whole story before I will change the entire story and the entire plan before I take something away from one of my players. And that's just the way I'm always going to run with it, just because it's not about me, it's about the players. But at the same notion, like if I think the story is very rewarding and they're going to like how it plays out, that might be a different story.
I guess for me, the biggest part of dealing with those wild curveballs in the module games I've run, there is a story that is planned, but I don't focus the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of my gaming time prepping on a story. It's on people, it's on places, it's on environment, it's on the world. And then if you have everything that fills the world where your players are going to be, then you're not going to be as surprised when they don't take this hook and they go over to this place, because you have an idea what is over there already. That has its limitations. If you, for Crimson Throne, for example, if everybody is based in Korvosa and they live in Korvosa, and somebody decides that they want to spend out the rest of their days in the Mwangi Expanse for some reason, what the fuck? But part of it is that nature and nurture I was talking about before. Give them something to care about where they're at. And then you don't have that. Or at least you hopefully don't.
That's still a
Does
different
that make-
story of like, it all hinges on somebody sitting in a chair. And if they don't, you know,
If they go look out a window.
they go look out a window.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
We've all been GMing for a long time, and we've all GM'd at least one module in our lives. What was the best module that you have ever run? And I'm going to qualify this. It doesn't have to have been a good module. In your mind, what was the best and most successful and most fun that was had running said module.
Carnival of Tears, no doubt. Both times I ran it were
That says a
utterly
lot about your
terrifying.
personality. That says a lot about you as a human being. That would be your answer.
Right?
No, so
Fuck
The right
you.
answer was Wild Beyond the Witchlight, Matthew, the other carnival.
I didn't get to run it though. I didn't get to run Wild Beyond the Witchlight.
That's true. That's true.
No, like I think for me as a GM, that module is set up like they say, like we recommend running this in one shot. No way. I think like the first third of the book lets players have fun because you're like a between 5th and 7th level, how it normally is set up. It lets the players spend 4 to 6 hours doing carnival games, interacting with the population, helping like the orphan kids buy
Treats.
caramel covered apples and pretzels and getting them tickets so they can do games and going on sleigh rides and partaking in like an ice chipping contest and see who the strong man is and drinking beer and having arm wrestling contests. It lets you show like we're adventurers and we're only 5th or 6th level, but compared to a normal townsfolk, like we're kind of badass. Like even like a level 5 wizard can probably knock out a lumberjack just because they have the extra hit points. Their base attack's going to be better. They can kind of outthink some of these things. And then the other shoe drops, and it is bad. There is terror. Illusions have dispersed, and you see that these carnies and these clowns that that you were helping the little kids pants and throw pies in their faces are these horrible monsters, and now your little band of 4 to 6 level 5 to 7 adventurers are literally trying to save a town of 600 people. And when you succeed, even through all of the terror, you feel remarkably fucking accomplished.
It is
And
by far the greatest horror campaign outside of World of Darkness or Call of Cthulhu that I've ever played.
Yes.
yeah, like it is terrible, and all of you have played in it as players.
And you
and
got
only
to
ran
and you got to see. I got to interview the guy who created it, and I remember you were like so excited that he was going to be on here just so you could ask about it.
Well, and I didn't even know he was the head writer for it. Like
Oh.
I was just saying because he had said something about like what was one of your favorite, like boom, like things are going fine and suddenly like the world's bad and now you have to be heroes. And it was literally when you players walked through the woods, the illusion went, and like Adams even said it. My dear wife won't play in any carnival games. Like her character's like, nope, the fuck out of there. But was the apple crates are made out of faces. Because that's when I ended it the first time I ran, and just the game ended with Adam saying, the apple crates are made out of faces. I said it now. My wife walked into the room and is standing here giving me the death glare because it's just traumatic.
She doesn't get
Love
to do
you.
that though. She's put people through that.
But she ran it so she didn't have to play in it again. Like it was a self-defense. She ran it as a self-defense defense mechanism. Like genuinely.
So yeah, like for me, that adventure is probably one of the best made because it has so many great highs and lows, and you don't have to defeat all of the bad guys to win. So then you can have reoccurring bad guys if you want to do that in your world. If you want to have things come back to be a thorn in the player's side, it just does a really good job of building the community and really making low level characters, because like 5th level you wouldn't see them being ones like, oh, we single-handedly saved a town of 500. This lets you do it, and I think it puts a lot of power into low level characters' hands.
There's a lot of agency that happens in that game that is beautiful. It's all of it. It takes the trope of horror and it makes the PCs the final survivor.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming they survive. I mean, there's absolutely the option or capability of you dying in the course of that. But yeah, it is a very well done module. Andrew, how about you? What is your favorite module that you've ever most successful module that you've ever run?
Crimson Throne would be the easy answer, the easy and obvious answer, but I have a different one that I'm going to pull out of my hat for this one, and this one will take us back probably quite a ways. I think only Matt actually experienced it, but it's a society scenario called the Trader's Lodge.
Yeah,
And it's about I won't go into too much detail, but obviously it's about a guy who's betraying the Pathfinder Society. You go and you explore his setup. He's got a lodge, he's got like a lab, he's got a place, a dwelling that you're looking through, and you're trying to find evidence about him being a traitor to the Pathfinder Society. And it goes downhill, and it's a delve into madness a little bit. And by the end of that game, you are just trying to make it out. I think it tells a story about a character who isn't even there, and it tells a pretty good one.
Cool. Very cool. Nick, how about you?
As I've said, I don't run modules well. I don't like running modules because I'm really bad at it, because my attention to detail is too high, and it's really difficult for me to read the text and go, there's so much open shit here. This doesn't make sense. It makes sense, but it doesn't. So I find that I have to fill the thing in. I've gotten better over the years. I've run 4 modules for the old school 3 campaign, 3 of which they knew were modules. I take great pride in knowing that one of the games I ran was a module, and they still to this day don't know. Like, that is a badge of honor. Do I remember the module? No, but I remember that they didn't know, and that's good enough for me.
Nice.
That's all that matters.
But for me, something that stands out is there's a difference between a module, like you know, the Carnival of Tears, and a campaign setting. I think they're called, like Curse of the Crimson Throne or Rise of the Rune Lords.
Adventure Path.
Yeah, an adventure path where it's a book that takes you from level 1 to whatever. And and this is a very specific game that kind of included everyone, but it really only included 2 players, and they are both here. And I ran a very modified campaign module for 2 high-level characters, and they literally played from book 2 all the way through to book 6 of Strange Aeons over the course of 4 or 5 campaigns. And it
I was
my
wondering
test,
if that's where you were going to go,
and it was a test run. It was a test run because I know I'm not good at modules. I know I can't stand running them, but I really loved the story. I really loved what was in there, and I love Cthulhu stuff. And it doesn't get explored very often. I know a lot about it. I've read almost all the books, or listened to almost all the books now, but I read them before when they were readable when I was younger. And so to me, it was a really cool story, and I wanted it to fit in. And so I fitted into an overarching story that was mostly based around Mordok, Adam's character. And I brought in Matt because I wanted Matt there to experience it as well, and some of the stuff directly tied to him and his character because I had been doing one-on-ones. That's my other strong point. One-on-one games. I will fight anyone in any of our GM groups or any of our friend groups that anyone can run a one-on-one game better than me. It's my
I won't disagree with you.
It's my only real strong point is I feel like I can make it really personable, and I've run one-on-one games for Matt and one-on-one games for Adam, and they both tied into this module. And those one-on-one games, they didn't know I was sowing the seeds to run this campaign months later.
Which admittedly makes
and now
me concerned.
Now you know that I did plant those seeds. That was intentional. It wasn't accidental.
It makes me concerned that you're going to be running some one-shots for me. Me going from.
And that directly tied into the games that I'm going to run for Adam starting 2 weeks from now. That it was all planned. I planned with Matt. I was like, I want to give him a town. Can I give him this town based on something else that's going on so I can run one-on-ones with him? Which originally was planned to not be on stream, but now it's on stream.
We're just gonna do it because why the fuck not?
Because I wanted to do some noble stuff in one-on-ones because that's what I felt I'm good at, and I haven't gotten to do it in a long time, and I want to do more of it. And yeah, so but long story short, Strange Aeons Adventure Path Adventure, what's it called? What are they called? Campaign
Adventure Path.
Adventure Path.
Adventure Path. Yeah.
The
Because usually they're like 1 to 20 or 1 to 15.
Yeah, the ones I ran for you guys where it was highly modified, and we fast tracked that module for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was able to tell a very compelling story that fit into the campaign and didn't feel like it was this long drawn out, campaign setting that was meant for an adventurer, for a 4 to 5, group of adventurers, and also would take 5 years to run. I ran it in like 5 game settings, maybe 6, for the 2 of you, and ran through the whole story. And I don't feel like I took away any of the story for the time. I think I balanced it really well, and I'm really proud of that game.
Well, I would.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
I was just to say, arguably, it was one of the most formative like adventures that Mordok had.
Oh
It
yeah,
very much-
it was a great transition from Mordok being the escaped gladiator to becoming a noble lord, to realizing that there's something beyond his next rank, his next lay, his next kill.
It was very, very formative for Mordok, and I did appreciate that you ran it the way you did. So yes, absolutely, it was a very impactful.
Oh, and I mean, after that game is when I did the retraining with Devlin and made him the
Dream Walker or
Dream
whatever?
Thief.
Dream Thief.
And that has led into many COVID games set in the realm of dreams, just to be able to run and have fun, but actually like follow the rules and know how impossible action works, which they've come up a bunch in Andrew's game to be able to reference things like that. And
In the most
just
broken way.
in the most broken way.
Nightmare
Yeah.
Dragons in Corvosa,
Yeah.
which directly
I
ties
will
into the
still
Stolen Souls campaign.
Yeah.
It does. I will say that the most fun I've ever had running a module, and I've run a number, despite the fact that I don't love them. I did enjoy running Shattered Star, especially when I decided to say fuck it all and do my own thing. But I will say the most successful one is actually one that I don't think anybody here played in, and it was Expedition to Castle Ravenloft from 3.5. I ran that book cover to cover, and it was so much fun.
I remember
We had
because you were asking me
such a great time.
historical. You were asking me
I
like,
was.
historical things about Strahd and whatever, because you knew I had read all the
Right.
books and I had all of the
Well-
source materials from 2nd and 3rd edition.
And I
So-
think the
so
only
for-
reason why you weren't playing in it is because you were still living up north at the time.
correct.
And so I was going to you for resource material because the way that Expedition to Castle Ravenloft was written in 3.5 is they nerfed Strahd himself to be a 15th level character, which
And you
in my
didn't want
mind is
that.
I did not want that. So Nick and I had so many phone calls. Like, all right, let's talk about the history. Let's talk about what this looks like. Let's talk about the lore. Let's talk about all this stuff. And I was able to run the campaign, but it turns out and I'm sorry, I'm going to probably spoil this campaign, but it's been out for more than 20 years, so deal with it.
Deal with it.
At the end, when they finally faced Strahd, they fought him and they defeated him utterly. And then the real Strahd shows up and goes, okay, cool. I'm glad to know that that's a way I can be defeated. Now all of you die. And they did. And that was the end. So the whole thing turned out to be just a test to see where Strahd's weaknesses were, where he could fall, where he could fall short and be exploited and whatever. And like some of the characters from that game did continue on in a different capacity, in a different world. Actually, one of the games that I'm running on my stream right now has one of the characters from that campaign in it. But most everybody, it was just like they were pissed, but they were also like, okay, but that makes sense. Like they were mad, but they're also like, but yeah, okay, we can't be too mad about it.
Yeah. I'm gonna go to chat because something came up in chat to talk about, and it's a really great question, and I'm really curious your guys' answers. Does anyone have a reoccurring mundane NPC that is your staple or consistent throughout your games? Someone that's like was an innkeeper or a shopkeeper who doesn't necessarily have a major plot to the story. And I'm going to one up that and say, not only that, but maybe also, I'm going to make it a two-part question. Do you have an NPC or something that wasn't intended to come back, but became a major part of the story? And I'm not talking cohorts or something. So these are going to be two things to talk, two talking points on this, because I think that's a really cool concept. And I know that it's happened because I've seen it happen where it's like, well, this person was meant to be an NPC and they became a major, story point or background or whatever, or, they're just a shopkeep, or they're just a shopkeep that just keeps showing up or shows up in multiple games repeatedly over and over. And I know Matt's got so many examples, so I'm just going to start with Matt.
Well,
and I know he's read it in ahead of time, so he probably has been thinking about it for the last couple seconds.
So really the thing that comes to my mind, and it's more of kind of like a group of mundane NPCs that I've been maybe using for the last 3 or 4 years. In Joint Galarian, I've been using them in a D&D game that I'm in, is a group called the Knights Errand. And they're literally a group of children that run errands in the town. And they have like little groups set up in various towns just a way for these orphanage kids to make money. And originally it was a way to make these kids look super cute, to then have the players give them ridiculous amounts of gold as tips, because my players are suckers for cute kids in needs that runs errands for them.
It's your damn mouth.
But then, and this ties directly in, Curly Girl really liked the idea of the Knight's Errand and wanted to discover more about them, and found out that they were like, on the surface, yes, there is the group that runs errands, they use the orphans, but you peel back the layers and they actually were an information gathering society run by these crooked halflings that had the feats and the traits to be able to disguise themselves as children. So some were children, some were actually innocent. But the upper echelon of this organization was information gathering group that she took issue with them kind of recruiting these children and making them do eventually dangerous things, that she took it upon her character, her and her cohort, to kill the leaders of this group to give the kids freedom to be the Knight's Errand and not be led down this life of crime in the future. So kind of the one group answers both of the questions.
Andrew?
I'm not going to answer yet. I'm going to think about it more, but I'm going to say what this kind of reminded me of, to bounce it over to Adam. I recall when reading that question, I always recalled the shopkeep that was there to get the Jedi back to their friends, and so what are your friends doing, and just polishing that table, like grinding their bar table to dust. Just this barkeep that's really trying to get the player back on the rails. And
that was a story I told you at a bonfire, I'm pretty sure. So what, I'll tell that story and then I'll answer the question. Long story short, my very first campaign, I was just I just bought the book, the 3.0, player's handbook and I was going to run my game, and I was struggling to find players amongst my friend group at the time, because this is before I met any of y'all. It was before I moved up to the North Shore and met most of y'all. I had one player that was like, basically said he would only play if he could play a Jedi, despite the fact that we were playing D&D. And I was so desperate to just have butts in seats that I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't give a fuck. Well, so we're running the game, and like the rogue in the party thought it was so like the player thought it was so fucking ridiculous that we had a Jedi, that she's like, fuck it. I sneak up to him and I steal his lightsaber. And we rolled, and he rolled a perception or a spot, and she rolled a move silently and hide, and blew him out of the water. So she stole his fucking lightsaber, and he got so butthurt in game that he's like, fuck it, I leave, I go to the bar. And so like the adventuring party went on to do stuff, and I would occasionally cut back to this bar of the bartender being like, so what are your friends up to, dude? Just trying to get this guy to get back on the rails. And then eventually he just metaphorically table flipped and left. The party was a lot better for it, I will say that much. But yeah, so that was that story. But there's a couple of things that I throw into almost every game. There's the Red Dragon Inn, which is an inn that looks like a red dragon. And that's even transcended D&D at this point. I built it in Nick's Minecraft server.
You sure did.
And so if you ever want to go see it, go join Nick's Minecraft server and go check it out. But so that's been in so many campaigns that I've run. So many campaigns. And like the cast of characters that work there are always the same. The proprietor is usually different depending on what campaign it's in, but the cast of characters that work there are consistent. And then recently I've introduced a sort of overarching concept of, okay, the Guild of Old People What Give Quests in Taverns, which is shortened to Goop Wicket. And it's basically a like Pathfinder Society West Marches, but basically the concept of it is that the old people, the trope of the old person, that's the old adventurer that's sitting in a tavern and dispensing adventures to new adventurers, like, oh, back in my day, we heard about this ancient cavern that had this ancient MacGuffin that you need to go find. Well, that group of people just organized and created their own guild. And so Goop Wicket has appeared in all of my homebrew campaigns so far. It has been brought up a couple of times in a number of different settings, but it is one of my favorite go-tos for just one, because the name Goop Wicket gives me so much joy. Because it's so ridiculous. But also just saying Guild of Old People What Give Quests in Taverns. And yes, I've 100% practiced that in front of the mirror. But just saying that and having people like, whoa, what just happened? is so just wonderful. And having that sort of established, like in a world where Pathfinder Society doesn't exist, having that sort of organization that like, you can do this. Even if you're not a member, you can still go to one of the guild members at your local tavern and get a quest. And, that is a great way to start a new campaign. It is a great way to start a new game with a bunch of new players that have never played before. So yeah, those are two things that kind of recur in my various campaigns.
I'm trying to think, but honestly, I feel like this question might have stumped me for a mundane character or a thing that I constantly use. I guess I'd flip this over and say, maybe this is an introspection thing, but have any of you all noticed something that I have used in games, multiple that I've played in mine, as a as like a constant Easter egg. I can't really
don't think
of
so.
one.
No, I don't. Not that I've noticed. Although I will say that you have had characters that I've seen that were started out as NPCs that became so much more to the integral storyline of a campaign that probably wasn't originally intended. Whether it's Curse of the Crimson Throne, and Rachel's dad character obviously became much more integral than just a story piece, or a character that eventually did become a cohort, even though we said that really doesn't matter. But I think they were integral before the whole cohort thing took place. But there were a lot of NPCs. There's a lot of NPCs in Crimson Throne that I don't think were intended to be a major role that became a major role for us, or we were like, no, we want them to show up with us, we're going to take them with us, we want to ask them, we're going to go to them, and make them, I think we as the players made them more than just a throwaway NPC that was there for nothing. I mean, the other alchemist in Curse of the Crimson Throne to me was looking back now, it's like, I don't think that was intended to be a character that I would work with, 3 or 4 times throughout the game and go back. Ashani is a throwaway NPC that was designed into the campaign. They became more than, I think what was originally that you originally had planned, but you leaned into it and made it a thing.
I guess the two that I can think of the most, they're not characters that were, so they don't really answer Rolana's question. They're not characters that appear in every game that I run or anything like that, but they are just minor nothing. One of them not even mentioned in the text. One of them not even from a spell that was cast by a player, but instead a spell cast by a minor NPC to help the players, who eventually had a personality of his own, was the Hound Archon Grover. Rip.
Rest in peace. That story's not over yet.
Grover was there. The party, Shawnee, as they mentioned in the chat, the party got in with a cleric of Abadar who became good friends with them, and he spent most of his money to send an ally to help them for about a set amount of time. And what he could summon with his planar ally spell was a Hound Archon. And there's the Hound Archon in the Bestiary, but I decided to add a little more flair to him. I said it wasn't a like a pincer like it is in the Bestiary, but it's a bulldog. It's a bulldog named Grover with jowls, who kind of like, he kind of does that all the time, and he talks, and he has all sorts of dog mannerisms in the things that he does. And Grover became he became sort of like part of the party for a while, even up to the point where people were discussing when he was killed by a red mantis, getting a true res to bring him back, because that's what it would require.
Damn.
I think that really was an inspiration for the characters. Like, his death really motivated everyone.
As somebody that has never actually played in one of your games, but has seen through Nick's streams and just heard tell through various different individuals of your campaigns, Andrew, I can't pinpoint like a specific character that is a through line, but I feel like there is a archetype that is a bit more of a through line, and I can't remember the name of it. It was Rachel's character's, Arabella's cohort or familiar, the pseudo dragon.
Yes.
What was his fucking name?
Majenko.
Thank you. The way you played Majenko, after seeing you run a number of different games, hearing stories of what you've run and stories behind what you've told, I feel like that is an archetype that you have carried through a number of different campaigns. And I think that qualifies for this question.
Yeah.
I feel like that qualifies. And that is to play a character, particularly like Majenko in Crimson Throne, who like I've heard other people talk about their playthrough of Crimson Throne, and Majenko is a very different character than the way you played him. To have that character be so integral and memorable the way that you had him in that specific campaign, but also to have that potentially carry through in other campaigns as an archetype, I feel like that's very personal to you. And I could be wrong, and you can tell me I'm wrong, but that would be the impression that I have.
We were watching a lot of Happy when Majenko.
Yes!
So
Yes!
I based them off of Patton Oswalt's Flying Imaginary Friend.
I am not mad at all about that. I loved that show. It
He is
fucked me
very
up,
much
but I
he is
loved that show.
very much a foil to the humorless doesn't like laughter Arabella.
That is amazing, and I'm so happy to hear that. That was a great question. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to, and don't forget about Bond.
Oh, Bond.
Yeah,
That was
Bond
a
is now in.
that was a mistake. It was a mistake, but it was a random thing that everybody just kind of latched onto. You know, it was one of those things where it's like you see it a lot in like Critical Role, and you see it a lot in D20 where people like not even characters, but like people in the audience watching will be like, we love this NPC. We're going to make this NPC a thing, whether they like it or not. That's kind of what Bond felt like.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I'm not mad about it. It's great. I love that that's now just the naming convention for Annis Hags and Galarian.
Right. I guess for me, I don't really have that I can think of or remember a character that reoccurs in other games, unless that's the point of the game, is to have characters reoccur or show up or alternate like timeline type ideas for the overall story, just because I thought that was fun. The GM who we reference when we say I'm going crazy, gave me the inspiration to utilize past stories in future story arcs with people who have no connection to them, because it's personally fun. So other than that, I think the only type of thing that I have is utilizing two things. There's utilizing references. I will oftentimes use characters from movies repeatedly as NPCs. So Nicolas Cage from A Sorcerer's Apprentice is a great high-level spellcaster that I like to use a lot in RPGs, just because the way he played it and the concept of it was kind of cool. The look was kind of neat. Or Braun from the Aragon movie that was played by Jeremy Irons. I have a special feeling for. I was like, that's really cool. It inspired me to read more again. I stopped reading for a long time, and so that movie inspired me to read the book, which inspired me to read a lot more books again, which of course once I got into audiobooks I really dove headfirst into. So I utilize
I have a funny story about this, and I want to tell it, but I want to do it after you're done, so continue.
So I personally will pull a lot of movie references for characters, descriptions of characters, visualizations of characters, the way they act as NPCs, and that will happen in multiple games based on the situations that I am running. My second point is not necessarily that in particular, the example that was given in the question, but the story going full circle back to the whole Biston's Pond thing. Almost the entirety of Biston's Pond were throwaway NPCs at one point, whether it's something that Matt ran or something that I ran. Almost the entirety of the people in Biston's Pond were like, this is a fun little NPC, little story background thing that's kind of fun, that everyone just kept referencing or would go back to. There's two people that build wagons, that an entire adventure was based around those two guys eventually. There's a lumberjack there that kind of is now like the overseeing gatekeeper of the tower that still doesn't go in there, but he's just an NPC that just reoccurred constantly and kept coming back in that campaign setting and is a permanent fixture in that town. There are so many people, NPCs, that are continuing, that are in the Bison's Pond game, that will continue to be in it when I start running them again for the community, that were throwaway NPCs at some point, either in Sandpoint or in Bison's Pond, that were just like, they're here doing this thing, but they were so intriguing that stories and campaigns and like key moments were based around their characters, and they kept coming back. So I thought that I think that that's kind of a cool gesture, which is one of the reasons that I think Bison's Pond seems really extra special to me, and why I want to run that town. Because it literally started from nothing and became something special. So that's my answer to that.
It's a good answer. I like that answer.
What is your thing?
It's a funny story. This is a little bit unrelated, but it is also kind of related. So I have an expansive vocabulary.
Unfortunately for
and
the
that-
rest of us. Sorry.
Well, but here's
Nobody
the
else is
thing.
laughing but me. Sorry.
I have it. Well, and this is actually leading into that story,
Okay.
this story. You used to give me so much shit about the types of word, like the phrasing that I would use or the words that I would use or whatever. And then I noticed when you started listening to audiobooks and started reading again,
I started doing the same thing.
no, you stopped giving me shit about it
Oh.
because you understood what the fuck I was talking about. Your vocabulary vastly expanded, which is really, for me, just the point of like, this is why reading is important. Is it really just listening and taking in all of that, taking in that information, even if it's something as ridiculous as like a Harry Dresden novel or something like that, like taking in all that information, even through kind of some weird form of osmosis, you are picking things up. You are picking up vocabulary words and all that stuff, and your comprehension just expands. And so, like, this is the first time in probably 2 or 3 years that you've given me shit about the language that I use. And I think you only did it now because it's something that you used to do.
Right. There's more to it than that, I think.
There's a lot more to it
because
than that.
as
I
we've
use
discussed,
a
I've
big
discussed this
word
on
when a
stream as well.
diminutive one will suffice.
What's that?
I said, why use a big word when a diminutive one will suffice?
I think
Unfortunately, that's just the way I think. Like those are the words that occur to me in the moment that they occur to me, and that's what comes out of my mouth. Like, I'm not trying to be highbrow. I'm not trying to be smarter than anybody else in the room. Unfortunately, that's just the language that occurs to me when it happens.
and I'm
What were you gonna
a
say, Nick?
communication major, so for me, it's like you need to explain things in a way that makes sense to everybody, not just to yourself. And that was one of the reasons I would give you crap. But another reason is because I was an immature asshole, and I've grown since then.
mean, again, nuance, but
But there is because I would catch myself. I would say something, I'd be like, "This is a word Adam would use." Ah, crap. And yeah, it was around the same time that I started reading more, going back to reading or going back to audiobooks or whatever. Not that that has anything to do with jamming, but it does a little bit.
as a legally blind human, anybody that tells me that audiobooks aren't reading, I will throat punch them. That is the most ableist bullshit I have ever heard in my entire life.
I used to say that, but now I apologize profusely every single time.
I know you do, and that's why we're still friends.
And no one's throat punched.
Hey, guys.
No throat punched.
I know there was something that I was supposed to remind you all about. I don't remember what they are, but consider yourselves reminded.
I remember mine. Do you guys remember yours?
I do.
Matt didn't have one.
I didn't have one.
Andrew, why don't you go first? Mine's going to take a second.
Okay, mine is basically just Nick might have already been planning on doing this anyways, but was just to take a second to plug the podcast that
Yes.
I am on. So I am on a podcast for a tabletop game called Festival of Embers. The site is tabletopod.com. It's a really unique post-apocalyptic setting by a GM who has kind of brainchild everything. He he's building the system and creating it with his players as he goes. It's a 3-6 system. He kind of made the setting and he crafts it with his characters as he plays. It's a really fun and unique setting. And if you want to talk about kind of characters appearing in multiple ones, the inspiration for that character is based very heavily off of the Lefty DaCosta character in Curse of the Crimson Throne. This one a little more lighthearted and a little more foolish in nature. Give it a look. Tabletopod.com.
And I want to add on to that, guys. You guys have heard me say it multiple times, hundreds of times, over and over again. I can't watch or listen to live play RPGs. I know I run them here on stream, but I can't watch Critical Role. I can't watch Glass Cannon. I can't. It just, there's something about it that I can't do. I've listened to almost every episode. I'm 3 episodes behind just because I've been so busy with COVID and everything. I love this show. I listen to it. Andrew knows, because every once in a while I'll send him a message like, blah, 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 blah happened. And he's like, yep, just wait. I'm like, is this based off of this? You'll just have to watch. And so I am. So guys, definitely go check out tabletopod.com. If you enjoy them, please give them a rating, give them a review. They're on Spotify, Apple, they're on all the podcast formats and platforms. So go and give them the ratings and reviews and listen to them. They are a lot of fun. And this is coming from a person who can't stand listening to those kind of games. I can stand listening to this. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, now I have to go find it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to go find it. I was going to go find it anyway, but that's a ringing endorsement. So I'm
The
here for
link's
it.
in the chat.
The link is in the chat. Yeah.
Oh, fabulous.
Adam, what was your thing?
My thing is going to be to do just a tiny little scene for Matt's character from our United Galarian game. If you're amenable, Nick.
Yeah, sure. It'll give me time to go to the bathroom real quick.
Sounds
That
good.
works.
So Matt, did you? I sent a thing in chat. I don't know if you
Yes,
saw it or not.
yes,
Okay. Do you have a dice
I
and or a dice
have-
roller?
I have a set of dice.
Okay, so at the end of the game, the last time we left off, you swam down into the depths of the murk, and you went and found the giant Rune Knight's Grave Knight's armor, or Rune Giant's Grave Knight armor.
Mm-hmm.
And you swam down and you grabbed it and you teleported to the safe house that you and Cleo are aware of in Magnamar. And as you are sitting there, kind of getting things like put in a way that makes like, because you just teleported and like it's a gargantuan sized giant's armor, so like it fills the space, and so you kind of like, okay, I can't just fucking leave it here. I have to do, so you kind of organize a little bit, try to move it in such a way that it's like at least you can walk in and out of the safe house without too much of an issue.
Like
before-
the neck opening is where the door is, and
Exactly. Like you walk in and you're just like, oh, there's the chest plate and I'm inside of it. And the helm is like in the kitchen, and just like there's just this gargantuan sized armor just filling this not very large space that you have. And you're like, okay, I'm here. There's a potential like a massive wave coming, second tsunami about to hit Magnamar. That's right, folks. I said second tsunami about to hit Magnamar. You're like, I need to go help. I'm gonna go. You're like, I'm gonna go to this church. I'm gonna do some stuff. To this Church of Sarenrae. I'm gonna kind of represent Sarenrae and like protect this church. I'm gonna do it as I am, as a representative and a chosen, more or less, of Sarenrae. And as you're about to embark on this mission, you start to hear this soft voice. Now,
am I going to need my character sheet in order to roll something off of that? Because I have to grab that if so. It's right here. I just need to.
Yeah,
okay.
grab your character sheet. Tell me, does Devlin?
It's the end of the world as he knows it.
Does
Dude,
Devlin
if I start wearing gargantuan armor, there'll be a problem.
Just the codpiece.
So, does Devlin? You were going to ask a question.
Devlin speak Abyssal?
Yeah, because being a half fiend, he gets that language.
So you hear voices, and it sort of coalesces into language, and it is abyssal, but it coalesces into actual words that you can understand. And as they start to form and coalesce into actual language, I need you to make a will save, please.
Is it a language dependent will save?
It is not.
Okay, I was just figuring. But is it versus a demon?
It is.
Is it versus enchantment?
It is not.
Okay. I have an 18.
Okay. You rolled a
I
total of
rolled
18?
no. I have a plus
Oh,
18.
plus
I rolled
18.
a
Gotcha.
15, 33.
Okay. So this voice kind of coalesces as Devlin has recently had a fair amount of kind of revelations about who he is and his part in the universe. And you hear this voice kind of coalesce out of nothing, this demonic voice just whispers in your ear, "Do you accept who you are?"
I will. Haha, because screw you, demon voice. Does the demon voice know celestial? I will say, I know who I am and I accept it, but I'll say that in celestial as kind of a fuck you to whoever's speaking to me in abyssal.
I love that for you. Um, you don't know. You don't know in this moment. You don't know for sure if they understood you or not. But as you say, "I know who I am and I accept it," you feel a sort of weird, strong, tingling sensation in your missing limbs. Uh, and you feel this, it's not pain necessarily, this just sort of an intense discomfort as you start to feel your flesh from your shoulder, because it's your arm that's missing. What was the other missing limb? Was it your leg?
So the leg was back. My arm was cursed off, so it needs to be a deity in order for it to come back.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Okay.
Yeah,
But that's from
feel
elbow down.
you gotcha. So you feel from your elbow where the clockwork is kind of taken over. You feel that sort of weird sensation, and you feel flesh start to grow over your clockwork hand. And for a split second, as it sort of closes over the clockwork, like sort of bones, you see this like intense demonic, like scaled, bright, burnt lobster red talons, smelling of sulfur, uh, growing over the bones of the clockwork. And then it sort of solidifies into just a hand, just a normal hand that you, as a tiefling, the right coloration, the right shape, the right size, just a hand on your arm.
Okay.
We'll talk about what that means for you off mic. But
That
anyway,
works. I take a magnet out. Ding.
the magnet falls off.
And then the hand
Does not
strangles you to death. Ah!
No, that's what would have happened had you not feeble-minded the creature.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I'm well aware. I'm well aware after the fact. Somebody messaged me and yeah.
Yeah,
You're
creature.
welcome.
Yeah, that was a whole ass thing.
Aren't you glad
was-
you gave Maractus all of those books of learning?
I am very glad.
All right.
Oh yeah, that's my thing.
So I've also got
Perfect.
something
Okay.
as well. And I want to start this off by saying thank you to the three of you for participating on stream, for GMing, for sacrificing your time, your effort, and your games for the sake of my stream. Because, while I've got a long way to go, this stream has come a long way, and it wouldn't be this far without the three of you. I appreciate it, and there is nothing I can ever do to repay you or to thank you enough. But what I do have is I do have just a small, tiny little gift for each of you for the next time I see
Aw.
you. And I'm wearing it on my head. And I've got 3 of them right here. I've got Epic Realms hats for each of you.
Nice.
And
Oh,
again, I
thank
can't
you.
ever repay you guys for the time you spent and the effort you've put into my stream and helping the stream be as awesome as it is. Lord knows I couldn't GM all the cool games that you guys have GM'd and the time you have put in on stream, off stream, and just even the support. When I'm having a down day and you guys just popping into stream to like ask a question of a guest when I'm really concerned of whether or not it's going to be a good show, or whether I'm really down and you guys message me and be like, hey, you're doing great, keep it up, I know that last stream was horrible. So just so you guys know, I appreciate you guys so much, and you guys mean a lot to me, so thank you so much. And I know the hats are hats and that's not anything special, but hopefully you guys can take the hats and at least wear them and be glad you got some hats, because there's really
it's
no
about-
way to say thank you.
It's about the only way I'd ever wear a baseball cap again, Nick. So consider that.
I appreciate
Provided
it.
it's still not snowing, we could get some fishing pictures of us in the hats.
Yeah,
There you go.
there
I
you
mean,
go.
fishing opener's like a month and 3 weeks away, but I'll still preface, maybe if it's not snowing, we can
Yeah, or
wear a
ice,
baseball hat.
This is Minnesota. Who knows?
right?
No, that was thank you, Nick.
Yes,
Truly, and
that is cool.
we support you and we love you, and we do this not because we get something out of it, but because it's what you want, and we love you.
I appreciate it. That being said, before I start crying, guys, thank you all for hanging out on the stream. This has been the Gamemasters of Epic Realms special show that you guys all wanted. You guys wanted to have these all on here. You guys spent your channel points to make it happen, and they stepped up and did this show for you all, and I appreciate all of you who have watched as well and have come in here. So thank you all so much for being here and participating in this. And a special thank you also, and I know Bentley read my mind, a special thank you to all of my mods that have been here and are here. It is Moderator Day on Twitch. So thank you, Bentley. Thank you, Curly Girl. Thank you, Lady the Fae. Thank you, Octavius, Pixelnix, and our new moderator, Identity Crisis VR. Thank you all for joining us and being part of this long journey. I know many of you are streamers, but not all of you. I thank you all so much. I also want to give a shout out to Identity Crisis VR. He is doing a Voices Against Cancer special stream starting on Saturday, going through Sunday. It's a 24-hour stream, which is going to include my moderators, Bentley and Octavius. They usually do on Bentley's stream a community game day. They are going to be merging their game day on Identity Crisis community Voices Against Cancer charity stream this weekend as well. So you can go and join that and hang out and play Dead by Daylight as well as many other things. So go and give Identity Crisis VR a follow and go and hang out. He's also celebrating 1,000 followers. He's a great friend of mine, and help Voices Against Cancer on his stream on Sunday, and join Bentley and Octavius, my other 2 moderators, as well for that and all of the shenanigans that come with it. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you to Matt and Andrew and Adam. You guys are amazing. We look forward to another 20, 30, 40 years of role playing with you guys, even when we get into the old folks home and we're in our walkers. So
We'll have
thank
the
you
full
guys.
VR dives then.
What's that?
We'll have the full VR dives.
That's right. We'll need it.
Like, yeah, the VTTs will be full VR. I'm here for it.
Yes, especially for the blind guy.
Right?
They'll be able to fix your eyesight by then. So
God, I fucking hope so.
it'll be great.
Like I'll be 90, and they're like, you could drive a car, but no, you can't.
But no, you can't. Only in VR. Guys, again, thank you so much. Oh, I suppose I should find someone to raid, shouldn't I?
Probably wouldn't hurt.
Shizy.
Second person, just whoever's your second person on the
Yeah,
list.
like literally the second person. Like you had this great emotional moment. Now you're wrecking it by having to go fucking find somebody.
Just
We're gonna-
find a good solid number 2 to go to.